Bob Bassani, before we dig into that, he's got the numbers for us at the New York Stock Exchange. Bob.
And Kelly, essentially at the lows for the day, just off it right across the board, S&P, NASDAQ, Dow Industrials, transports, all of them sitting essentially at the lows. I want to show you a two-day chart of the S&P because there's an old saying down here, when you don't know what the fundamentals are, trade on the technicals. That horizontal line, that's the lows of yesterday. And as soon as we passed the lows of yesterday, a little after 10 o'clock Eastern time, market drooped, volume picked up. Those are people not sure where the market's going on fundamentals. You trade on technicals, very established pattern. In terms of sectors here, credit cards week today. MasterCard, one of the latest companies to warn on sales and profit forecasts on coronavirus, down. Visa down. American Express, Dow components all down. Dow movers outside of that, well, that's surprising. Industrials and energy stocks, those are, again, one of the most exposed to the global economy. So you see Exxon weak, 3M, Boeing to the downside. Banks, no help here. 4-year lows on yields on the 10-year. And a lot of those big banks there that you're looking at are now in correction territory, down 10% or more from their 52-week high. Kelly, back to you.
Thanks very much, Bob Bassani. We now have the Dow Jones Industrial Average down about 523 points at session lows. Let's drill down a little bit more on this sudden sell-off. With me now are Steve Whiting, Chief Investment Strategist at Citi Private Bank, Jason Brady, CEO and President at Thornburg Investment Management, and Michael Schumacher is Global Head of Rate Strategy and Managing Director at Wells Fargo. And Steve, what would you even draw attention to? The stock market today, the bond market, Mr. Schumacher's specialty? I mean,
both.
What's the big headline for you?
Well, both. Look, what has happened over the last few days has been a pretty rapid spread in the coronavirus outside of China. 2,900 cases is pretty much where China was at the end of January. In Italy, going from 3 to something like 300 over the course of a few days really does suggest that what was likely to be a regional shock could be one that's more global.
But here's what I don't understand. We knew this was a risk. Did anybody think this was not going to escape China?
It absolutely was a risk. It was not priced as something that was going to involve a global shock. Now, let's be clear here that all of the things that we do is precautions to keep people safe. That is actually what is holding things back. That if you have
holding economic activity back, absolutely.
And it will have a very big effect. We are not going to have the economy that we thought at the start of the year. We were rebounding from a trade shock, but travel, tourism, supply chains, getting products from factories to consumers, these sorts of things will be interrupted, particularly if we see this move across multiple regions. And that was not what was priced in the markets.
And Jason Brady, you now have the CDC basically saying to Americans we should explore work from home plans, check in with our schools and daycares, look at telemedicine options. Again, this was part of their weekly briefing, so they're just responding to questions that are naturally coming up. But if that's true, then how much more of a hit are we talking to GDP? And are you supposed to just ride it out in the stock market, or what should investors do?
Look, the challenge with markets today is that valuations are not particularly supportive, and high valuations don't mean that we're going to have any kind of crash. It just means that markets are vulnerable. So what you're seeing is an increase in risks. Certainly the coronavirus is a